Made possible through support from ARC thrift stores. Howdy, homemade ice cream, Colorado Developmental Disabilities Council, Developmental Pathways, Special Olympics Colorado, and the Arc of Aurora.
A THINK+change training.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we are going to be talking about what is neurodiversity. I am Petrie Brill. I am an advocate here with the Arc of Aurora. This is one of THINK+change's podcasts for 2026. And neurodiversity is a relatively new term. And so what does it mean? So we thought we would bring in an expert today who has lived experience in this realm and have him share a little bit with us about the term, what it means to live it, and just have an interesting discussion about that today. So we have with us Brian B. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. We are so thrilled to have you here in your very vibrant attire.
I figured something kind of muted, earth tones maybe.
I'm glad you're not standing out today. So Brian, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you come to this subject matter.
Sure. So, hey everybody, Brian B. And my born last name is Bernard. You'll see that if you email me at the university. And I'm an autistic artist advocate, which means I'm fun, I'm weird, and I can talk about it, or sing about it, or we can not talk about it and just like sit together and watch the clouds. So that's my deal. And I'm over at the School of Medicine with JFK Partners as their Self-Advocacy Coordinator. And I've been a dancer, a singer-songwriter, and I have fun, and why not? Like, life is terrifying, so let's play.
I like it. What led you to the advocacy program?
What led me to the advocacy program? There's a leadership and education in neurodevelopmental disabilities training, LEND.
The LEND, yeah.
You've heard of LEND before.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know about LEND?
It's in my orbit somehow.
It's in my orbit.
Yeah.
I'm
Take notes.
In my orbit. Yeah. That reminds me of a phrase my dad used. He started using a cane, and he said, "I've increased my sphere of influence."
There you go. I love it.
So yeah, that's how I got here. And leadership, I don't know. I guess that's kind of incumbent in some of the arts that I was doing. Mm-hmm. And then so being able to advocate about disability in a fun way, as opposed to, sometimes it gets pretty, dry.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing that work. That's pretty exciting.
Thank you.
So when you hear neurodiversity, what does that mean to you? How do you view that?
Right.
Share with us a little bit about your experience.
Right. What is that? So being on the autism spectrum makes me automatically neurodiverse, but also what about so many other conditions? Neurodiversity, or some people say neurospicy, or neurodivergent.
Yep.
What is this? Well, the words are just neuro or neurology, our nervous system, and diversity, which there's not like an official definition, or if there is, there's debate about it. So just being different. So learning styles being different, or the way that we interact, or the way that we sensory processing is a big one in the neurodiversity world. So, that it's just being different in some of the ways that we experience the world, especially in relation to our nervous system.
So we've kind of gone from, there's an evolution, right, in this world, from intellectual disabilities to the actual diagnosis, whether it's autism or anything else, to this more kind of umbrella term, neurodivergent. Mm-hmm. Since your diagnosis and in your kind of transformation in being neurodivergent and understanding, what does that look like for you? I mean, were you initially a person with autism and now you're neurodivergent? How has that kind of ebbed and flowed or changed for you in your journey?
I mean, I always knew I was different, and then just as you grow, you get more perspective and more experience, basically more anecdotes, more people in life. And so when I was young, they called it ADD. Mm-hmm. My parents were like, he's moving all the time, what do
Yeah.
and can he hear? And so I'm doing auditory testing, and then I'm in and out of special ed. They said learning disability. And then I got older, and they were saying PTSD and depression. And then when they said autism spectrum, we began to look further. Generalized anxiety and sensory processing. And then now there's these levels of autism.
Right.
And so it's been an evolving thing for me. I have a challenge for you. I think you might be up for it.
Okay.
Can we talk about neurodiversity and not use medical terms?
Absolutely.
Can we?
Of course.
What does that look like? What is talking about neurodiversity? Because if we were going to use medical terms, I think there's a lot of names, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of different names. But then what if we're not using medical terms? Then then what are we saying?
So if, as someone who's neurodivergent,
Yeah.
how would you say that has shaped you without using the medical terms? How has it impacted your communication without using the medical terms? You tell me with the lived experience.
Well, like I mentioned, just learning different and experiencing the world different. Sensory processing is something that we came to think of as folks that have a thing called sensory processing disorder, and the OT field has gotten away from that. It's not a medical term, and really we all have a sensory profile or needs, or it might even be just preferences, but for some of us it's a severe need. For example, not being around blinking lights because it might cause a seizure. I don't have that, but some people do, and it's become a thing for us to be safe about. And then I love how in the workplaces, like I was touring around your office here, and I love how people are able to modify each of their places, their office, for what are their sensory needs: colors, lighting, sounds, sound baffling, beanbag, an orange beanbag at that.
I know, isn't that great?
Yeah. So I like being able to just talk about each person and what supports them to be effective.
What strengths do you feel you possess that have come out of this experience for you?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I'm going to align with Temple Grandin on this one with the strengths based, because if you're trying to take the weaknesses and make those stronger, that's kind of that's a challenging carrot to chase that stays ahead of you sometimes. So if you can just, what's somebody good at? And that doesn't have to be disability. It doesn't even have to be neurodiversity, right? Just what are folks good at? So I have a really great ability to overthink everything until the mic is on, the stage is on, the audience is here, and then I'm really great at filtering and editing and prioritizing. Why does that work in that shared energy space, in that creative, supportive team space? But if you tell me, the recertification is due in January, so start in October and just chunk it down, I'm probably not going to be able to do that. I'm probably going to need. In fact, I'm thinking of something that happened a year ago, and my coworker, I was like, "Can you just set up some sessions with me?" And we did what you might call parallel action or buddy team on it, and she helped take. I'm going to estimate 20 slides of stuff and distill it down to maybe 7 or something like that. And that was a workplace accommodation for me, yet it didn't have to go through HR and become a workplace accommodation. It was just a coworker saying, well, how can I help you get this certification done?
Yeah. So just hearing that story, one of your strengths, it sounds like, definitely not only is advocating for others, but for yourself.
I'm getting there. They're two different things.
They are very different. As an advocate for other humans, you're very right. It is very different to advocate for others than it is for yourself.
It was so hard to ask for and accept help.
Yeah.
Especially after you've been helping other people do it for years and years, and now it's time for you to do it, and you're like, I'll just stay alone. Never mind. No thanks.
I can
What do you mean, never
relate.
mind? No thanks. What?
So share with me, Brian, some misconceptions that you have either experienced or just see in general around the understanding of neurodiversity?
I call it if then, and it's just not always true. Well, if Brian can prioritize during the acting production memorizing his lines and then show up for his commitment, then he can keep a regular job. Okay, I get why you would reason that. I kind of wish that was true. I have not experienced that is true. I haven't been able to keep regular jobs, whatever that is, 9 to 5 or Monday through Friday or 40 hours or whatever. Regular jobs and I are not. Maybe one day I don't know, maybe I'll be a part of a team someday, but not really so much so far. So the part-time gigs has been that's one thing that I've learned.
Yeah. What do you hear from other people in the community in terms of what they're experiencing as far as misconceptions?
That's a good question. So this one's kind of popular in the autism world, but I think it works in a lot of other places. The so-called easy labels, they might be convenient, but they may not be helping somebody. An example would be, oh, well, Brian's just unmotivated. And I'm just going to use me as an example, but you can fill in whatever name.
Sure.
Zariah's just lazy. Zariah's just gifted. Or Tanisha's really high functioning. And those might be handy labels or value judgments, but I guess taking it from misconception over to what I think could be more forward is just talk about the supports that somebody needs.
Mm-hmm.
Again, talking about myself, you might look at me and go, well, he can live independently. He can make his own food. He can shower independently, and then whatever you might want to call it, he's fine or he's good to go or whatever, and you might miss that I could use a check-in. I could use some prompts.
Mm-hmm.
I could use some support even for basics like eating, hygiene, work. These days, who has their email inbox organized? Does there are people. Okay, yes, there are people. I'm not one of them.
There might be one or two in this office.
There might be one or two. Okay, hey, rock on, y'all. Get it for the ones here that have got your email inbox organized. I still, yeah. I tell people, if you want me to never see something, mail it to me.
Right.
I still haven't figured out my physical mail,
Yeah.
And if you were to say, Brian's gifted or Brian's high functioning, whatever, you would miss some of that stuff, Some
of the details.
Some of and so it's easier to just say, I feel it's not easier, but it's more effective to talk about what are the supports somebody could use.
And that brings me to my next question.
Okay.
Which is, what does that look like for supports, or what does an environment look like to be more inclusive to those with neurodivergence? And obviously, every individual is individual. And so it's an overarching question. It's a broad question.
Yeah.
But, for example, you gave some examples of how this office feels to you today.
Mm-hmm.
So just share a little bit more about...
It's kind of quiet here today. Petrie said, that's because the loud people aren't here today.
Exactly. The loud people in our office are not here. So
I play both sides. I'm the loud person. I'm the quiet person.
Yeah.
It depends on the day.
But as we're moving forward in this space and wanting to be more inclusive to all humans, what are some things that people can do, offices can do, environments can do, even in attitudes that can make inclusivity feel more effective?
Sure. Well, you're making me think of a story that happened on the stage. Can I tell you about that?
Please.
So, The Elephant Man, do you know that story?
Of course.
You know that story?
Yes.
Right on. Joseph Carey Merrick in the plays called John Merrick, a real individual that lived over in Europe a couple hundred years ago. And so I'm in that show. family theater with a
Yep.
PH.
We've interviewed him before.
Ben was here,
Uh-huh,
right? Yeah, Jamie was here. Some other family theater actors. A local treasure here in the Denver metro area, but they do stuff worldwide too. It's cool. So I'm on stage, and one of the actors doesn't show, and it's what do you call that? What do you call that first night where there's an audience but they haven't paid?
Oh yeah, it's just like a soft opening.
It's like the soft opening. It's like
friends
2
and
nights
family.
before the
Yeah.
and there's an actor that isn't there, and they come, and so the stage manager comes to me and says, "So Brian, the director would like to know, would you be willing to fill in?" I was like, "Okay." And then he said to me, "You can bring the script on stage, and if you forget everything that's on there, just say, 'Be right back with customers.'" I wonder if I would have been able to. And then I ended up doing it not only that night and the next night, but for the whole run. And then when we went to the next venue, I was that additional character. And I wonder if one of the success points in there was I had an out, like, do this, and if all doesn't go well, just do this, and that'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if we could co-create safe, brave space to give people where it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of us learn and grow, and then get to where we succeed. Isn't there a book called Fail Your Way to the Top or something like that?
I'm sure there is.
So, yeah, I wonder if that's one of the things that we could do in neurodiversity affirming in workplaces, even at home, like with our kids, right? We don't want to rescue them from all trouble,
Exactly.
right? We want them to experience some difficulty and learn from that. And then, let's grow the next time.
And have flexibility within a framework to give that person choices and options to explore. If something doesn't work, let's try something different, is what it sounds like I hear you saying.
Yeah. I wonder if I've got this thing that I call it the power of story. Can I tell you about that?
Please do.
This might fit with your. How are we gonna? What are the overarching things? Because everybody's different. So I call it the power of story. What's strong with you? That's a whole story. And what's wrong with you? And that's a whole story. And in the disability system, especially when you get into like funding and medical, where do you think a lot of the energy ends up? What's strong with you or what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we work against all the time.
Yeah.
The focus is on what's wrong.
It is. Our medical system, our billing language,
Yep.
our codes are all deficits based. So we all end up feeding to some degree on, this person can't do their own transportation. This person cannot do their own meds. This person cannot get a job, whatever they can't use their left arm, can't whatever. And we have to feed on that story a bit just to navigate the system, just to get supports. And so just acknowledging, okay, yeah, that's a story. And in this court case or in this advocacy venture or in this occupation or whatever, we're gonna feed a lot on that story. Let's also feed on what's strong with you. And what's strong with you may not end up in front of the judge, may not end up in human resources, may not end up at the IEP. At the IEP it better, actually. But like we can feed on the what's strong with you. So then I say we can overdo the what's strong with you. Have you ever found that to be the case, that you could overdo that?
Sure, of course.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, now I want you to tell me, what is it?
Well, I mean, we see that in the work that we do. Oftentimes, the strong can become, it's almost as if it's becoming too powerful. People are taking it too far because it's now the buzzword to focus on the strength, that can actually be unempowering sometimes for a person, because then they're left to their own devices in a way that doesn't support them. The supports aren't properly put in place for them to reach their strengths. So that's how I've seen it show up in some of my clients, and honestly in IEPs. Schools say they're doing great, when they do in fact still need supports to ensure that they're reaching that greatness.
Somehow, as humans, we want to just feed on the one or the other.
Yeah.
And what's strong with you is awesome, but if you can basically be invalidating
Right.
of somebody's actual need for
Yeah.
supports. So I call it that they're both a story, and neither one's complete without the other.
Mm-hmm.
And just try to be aware of the energy
Yeah.
and counterbalancing when something's gone too far one way or the other.
Yeah, there is the middle ground, that sweet spot.
Where is it? Can we go? I've been looking for that. And it's like, what is with the pendulum? But
Yeah.
that's life.
I think so. I think it is. And I feel like, anyone who is an advocate and working in this world, as, our mission at the Arc of Aurora is education, opening people's eyes, creating conversations, and helping to empower the people we support. We don't ever want to be just another person in someone's life that they become reliant on. That's not our role. That's not what we want to do. And as a self-advocate, that's the same role that you play. And I think just as you were talking about the strong and wrong, that's the sweet spot, is empowering people so that they find their own power, their own voice, their own ability to advocate. And so, that's what these conversations are about, because everything is always evolving, and education is pretty important. That's how people become more aware of these evolutions within this. Is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap up that we haven't talked about that is important to you or you feel passionate about?
Two stories. One, everything you just said reminds me of how I came to be Brian B., the artist advocate. So Brian B. is a name, and it's also an invitation. It's a sentence. Brian B.
I love it.
And then I feel like the natural is, well, if Brian gets to be, whoever else, like, be.
Yeah, I love that.
And for a lot of us, that's an unfolding thing. That's an ever, we're learning as we grow. And then you mentioned about, we talk about like our kids or people that we support and give them a chance to fail, to learn from that. And what about all of us as well? For example, the advocates, for example, the directors, the administrators, the parents, the self-advocates, the experts,
right?
Maybe the clinicians. Can they also be given permission to not be perfect? Like, can since they're people too, can they also, like, my bad? Like, I feel like we could all practice that. My bad.
Yeah.
And instead of, what is this thing where, like, we're trying to, like, I don't want to make any mistake. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. Okay, I don't know where that world is. The world that I live is, I'm gonna say or do the wrong thing. So I practice, my bad.
Yeah.
And then I go forward from that one.
Yeah, everyone's human.
Making mistakes and making it, improvisation helps me welcome. They say there are no mistakes, it's all gifts.
Right.
In improv.
Yeah.
Now, for the doctors listening to this, I'm not saying go ahead and prescribe wrong.
Right, exactly.
And yet they make mistakes too. I actually have a background in medicine, it's so I guess I'll go back to life is terrifying. So let's play.
Yeah. While we have you here, is there any upcoming things that you're going to be acting in?
I actually just did some filming with Family Theater
great.
within the last week. So they're going to be launching Pretty Little Things in October of 2026.
And where will people find that?
Yeah, Family Theater, PHAMALY.org.
Okay.
And then this is actually a ticketed, copyrighted play. So it's not like going to be free on the internet in perpetuity. It'll actually be a play for a short while.
Cool.
Any other things coming up that I'm acting in? Not that I'm currently aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm currently aware of.
Well, if something pops up, let us know, and we will definitely post that for sure.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, can I send you some resources, some links, and then when you guys
Please
publish
do.
this,
Yeah, we'll add it onto this for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well,
Right on.
Brian, thank you for being. Thank you for the work that you do, and
Yeah.
thank you for joining us today and just kind of sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise, your lived experience. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
And spending some time with you.
Thanks
so
for the
thanks for
sparkles.
joining us. No problem.
All right.
Thank all of you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. There will be more to come, as you know. So in the meantime, take good care and be well.